All right. So I'm going to be guiding a practice, but as always, please make this your own. Guided meditation is a lovely support, and I like guided meditations. And sometimes with guided meditations, there can come in that sort of voice of like, I need to do this right, or I need to follow this instruction. And I really encourage you to give yourself permission to let the guidance be an invitation and um, a catalyst for whatever wants to happen for you today in your practice. And if that means really attuning to the specific instruction I offer, great. If that means allowing it to kind of be in the background as you explore something that is maybe adjacent, great. If that means getting up and, doing some yoga or dancing, great. I think the one suggestion that I would say to try to take is to just be really sweet to yourself and really sweet to whatever parts of you arise during the practice. And to maybe take it kind of easy, and maybe in being sweet to yourself, also don't take yourself too seriously. Don't take yourselves too seriously. Maybe allowing the ridiculousness of being human to even bring a little chuckle to you now and then. The beautiful ridiculousness. So you might wish to close your eyes. You might wish to, if you haven't already, settle into a posture that's supportive and comfortable and maybe sustainable if stillness is something you're working towards in your practice. My little dog is in a barky mood, so you might get the unexpected gift of a surprise at some point. But now he's put his head down and he's closed his eyes, so maybe he senses it's time to intentionally practice. So to begin, we might focus on relaxation, and I want to give a prompt for that, maybe a little different from how we would normally start that relaxation process. And that is to use your mind and to imagine, what if I was the most relaxed I've ever been right now in this moment? What if I could experience deep, profound relaxation in this moment? What might that be like? and to employ your imagination here. What if just spontaneously, right here, right now, I was the most physically relaxed I've ever been? And in imagining what that might be like, perhaps relaxation begins to spread through the body. Our imagination is so powerful. Our imagination is perhaps more powerful than the knots in your shoulders or the tension in your back or whatever other aches and pains and tensions might be present. Maybe your imagination is so powerful that it surpasses some of that, just for right now. We can use our imaginations, use our creative mind to expand our capacity for enjoyment, for pleasure. How good can your body feel just simply by imagining it so? So we're going to do a particular kind of body scan here using what we've done so far here with the imagination and relaxation. And I'll start us at the feet, but if that doesn't feel right for you, then you start wherever you want in your body. We're going to start with the toes. And we'll begin with the toes on your left foot. And you can go one by one to whatever degree that sort of physical awareness is available. And do the same thing. And it might be relaxation, or we might just go for pleasure in general, which could manifest in all kinds of ways. What if my big toe on my left foot felt the best it's ever felt? What if I was experiencing the most pleasure I've ever felt in my left big toe? What would that be like? Now, the trap with this is to start to get perfectionistic about it or to judge what is possible in this moment. So I really encourage you to just like let that come and go and come back to just how powerful your imagination is, and whatever it's offering today is what it's offering today, and that's just great. It's just perfect. It's just exactly as it should be. And in some ways, you can really just let yourself buy into it. Just gonna decide to have the best feeling ever in my left toe. So go ahead and do this with each toe. And it might be that that's not quite possible, and it's more about doing it with kind of the toes in general. I'm doing this practice and realizing I've tucked my toes in such a way that they're like really painful. So I'm adjusting. And I give you permission to do the same, because this is about feeling good. So if you can make an adjustment that supports the imagination in this process, then just do it. Going through the toes on the left foot and then starting to move into the rest of the foot. You can get as sort of detailed as you want. It might be like various sections of the sole and the top of the foot, or it might just be like the foot in general. My left foot. What if my left foot felt the best it's ever felt? And I find there's a kind of falling into this falling into the imagination, this falling into that childlike imaginary world. And it may start to transform from imaginary to something more tangible, more real. And then you can continue to move up into the ankle and continue up the leg. So, what if I was experiencing the most pleasure I've ever experienced in my left calf, my left shin, in my left knee? And just move at whatever pace feels good up the leg, utilizing your superpower of imagination. And once you start to reach the upper thigh and into the hip, you kind of come all the way up to where the hip starts to turn into the pelvis and torso area. And then when you're ready, go ahead and move over to the right, perhaps the right big toe, and start the process again. What if I was feeling the most pleasure I've ever felt right here in my toes? And at your own wonderful pace, you'll continue to move up into the foot, into the ankle, into the rest of the leg. You might find that one side of the body is easier to do this with than the other. That wouldn't be uncommon. And so try your best to really just be in this moment, letting go of what you experienced on the other side, just really being with what it is to be here now with this practice. And if you find yourself yawning or swallowing or sighing, that's a good thing. As we attune to pleasure, sort of unwind, moving out of hypo aroused states in the nervous system, landing into our glorious window of tolerance or of resilience. Sometimes that process of really being with what feels good can create some release, and it can even create some emotional release. You might find yourself crying or laughing, also would be totally normal. So by now, perhaps you've reached the top of that right leg, and we can start to move it into the lower parts of the torso. So if it's comfortable and feels safe for you, you might start to imagine, what if I felt the best I've ever felt, the most pleasure I've ever felt in my hips, in my pelvis, in my seat. So these are areas that certainly, we can experience a lot of pleasure in the genital area. And there are also areas where we can hold a lot of challenging emotion, history. And so just really honoring your own boundaries, really being in consent with yourself as you explore these parts of the body, and really any parts of the body, but just naming that here. You might notice a sort of tightening up or bracing against good feelings. And that could be exactly the right thing for you right now. It could be that that is a really important protective thing your body's doing, in which case, honor it and find what the pleasure is, where the pleasure is available, even within the bracing. Or it might be that that's just sort of habitual and it's not necessary, and you might be able to release some of that, soften some of that. So, as always, you are your own best teacher, you are your own best guide. You're developing trust and safety in an embodied sense for yourself as you lovingly navigate feeling good. And perhaps continuing to move up into the torso, lower back, upper hips, into the abdomen. And starting to move upward. What if I was experiencing the most pleasure I've ever felt in my intestines, in my stomach, in the connection of my psoas up in the back, the lower rib cage, the solar plexus, really moving with kindness and love through a sort of lower mid portion of the torso. What if this felt amazing? And keep using that imagination, that beautiful creative mind of yours. It's not going anywhere. You can trust it to continue to regenerate. Just needs a little intention and a little attention. And continuing up into the rest of the torso, up into the chest, and the mid and upper back. What if I was experiencing the most pleasure ever in the connective tissue between my ribs? Around my heart, my lungs, along my spine, between my shoulder blades. And again, if you're yawning like I am, it's a good thing. Let that happen. And continuing all the way up to the clavicle, up to your collarbones, up to the upper torso, just before the shoulders and neck start to do their thing. And once you've reached that point, you might come to the right arm. Now I'm going to start with my right shoulder and move down. You might want to start with the right hand and each finger and move up. So just notice what feels sort of intuitively the right move for you today. Like on an energetic level, what is the flow that feels best? So whichever direction you're going, same thing. What if I was experiencing the most pleasure in my right shoulder, my right armpit, or in my right thumb, wherever you are, and just exploring the hand and arm, shoulder on the right side, the same way we did with the legs. As we explore pleasure, sometimes it can be overwhelming, and you might pop out of that window of tolerance. You might start to experience some dysregulation of the nervous system, or we don't need to put it that way, some reasonable embodied emergency response, right? Your body might have memory, it might have association with certain pleasure that creates a bit of an emergency experience. And this is not uncommon. And if this happens for you, I really encourage you to work with that versus trying to do the exercise. So if you are feeling a sort of collapse or a sort of speeding up anxiety, something like this, or any overwhelming emotions, or like a shutdown where you just sort of start checking out, I really encourage you to use your practice to orient towards a resource that is stabilizing, that does feel safe in your body, which could even include opening your eyes and taking in the sights of your environment. It could possibly include focusing on something that doesn't feel so good as like a grounding method, orienting towards something potentially more familiar if working with pleasure in this way is new. So that might not be happening for you, but if it is, just really honoring the experience you're having first and foremost. So perhaps moving over to the left arm. I think we started with the right. If I have that wrong, then just switch it, but I believe we're going over to the left. Now I'm second guessing that. Go to the other arm. And start the same process here. What if this was the best feeling ever in this arm, in this hand, in these fingers? Using your imagination to really saturate the entire arm and hand with pleasure. And then as you're ready, moving into the neck. Same thing here. Being aware that the head might become a little heavy as the neck starts to feel really good, and making sure you're supporting your neck and your head, utilizing a bit of your muscles to support that, or leaning your head back if you have something behind you can lean into. What if my vocal cords were experiencing the most pleasure they've ever experienced? And then continuing up into your head, into your face, to your scalp, inside of your mouth, even your eyeballs. And bringing in that same imagination, that creative power. What if my whole head, every feature of my face, what if my brain was experiencing the most pleasure it ever has? And now taking a moment to be with the whole body to whatever level that's available. And the same curiosity, what if my entire body was experiencing the most pleasure it ever has? And I encourage you to, just for these next few moments, just believe it. Buy in fully. Give your imagination, your beautiful creative mind, full power. Let it reign supreme. And enjoy. So by no means do you need to let go of this pleasure. You can carry it with you through the rest of your day, through the rest of your week, through the rest of your life. And coming out of the formal practice doesn't mean needing to end the practice. This practice of pleasure can continue on. I deeply encourage you to continue on with it. So as you're ready, if the eyes are closed, blinking the eyes open. Oh, little Jake got up just in time. He knows when the meditation ends. It's so cute. He was feeling good with us. We're coming on back. Giving yourself some appreciation for taking that journey, for taking that time to practice. That practice of aligning towards pleasure, towards enjoyment, towards what feels good, not as a way to bypass the pain and the struggle and the suffering of life, but as a way to just tip the scales. We're really good at feeling bad. We're really good at knowing what's not working, what we don't like. We have that negativity bias along with all the other ways in which our culture and our own personal histories have trained us to look for the danger, to look for the problem. And it doesn't mean danger and challenge doesn't exist, but we can practice tipping that scale so we can spend more time in enjoyment and actually living from that place, living from that perspective, living from that experience. We become more effective in our lives. We become far superior at problem solving, at activism, at showing up for the hard stuff. So giving yourself some appreciation for practicing something that's actually pretty radical, pretty revolutionary in this world. Thank you for practicing with me.